Dany, come on up here. Everybody, welcome Dany. Dany is from Costa Rica. And how many people know Renee and Elena from Costa Rica? Okay. Yeah, you do too. Dany is their son. And Dany has recently taken Zoe Church in Costa Rica and made it his own. So Dany is pastoring now and taking something and really making it his own past his parents. I got to be there and watch as mom and dad turned Zoe Church over to Dany, watch the transition take place, and now watching mom and dad serve and support a son. It's really beautiful. And unfortunately, it doesn't happen enough in the body of Christ. So Dany on his own has the heart of a father like few sons I know do. Very similar to Casey, this guy truly has taken seriously his identity as a son and has explored it past what even mentors and other teachers in his life have done it. And so now it's amazing how much I learn from this guy. So we wanted him to speak to you today so you could experience that too. So Dany, welcome. We're glad to have you.
Thanks. I first of all wanted to honor that moment that Ashley really enabled for us of just that this felt like a classroom, and I hope that you all felt like you were in a classroom. And just that permission that she gave us to make mistakes. While she was talking, I was just thinking of when Elijah confronted all of these other prophets from Baal. I think that's how you say it in English. And he invites the prophets of Baal to come basically to a showdown. And he's like, okay, let's see which God is real. Let's see which God will answer. And these prophets start crying out to their God. And they're doing it with everything they have. And they're cutting themselves and they're bleeding on this altar. And they're doing everything they can so that their God will respond. They're creating this environment so that God can come and their God can come and meet them and answer their call. And while they're doing that, Elijah is making fun of them, like really making fun of them. And he's saying, like, I think you need to yell more. I think he's busy. And while he's doing this, which is insane, their time is up and their God doesn't answer. And when it's Elijah's turn to call upon God, what he does is that he actually orders for a ditch to be made around the altar, for where he's going to call God to bless his sacrifice and send fire from heaven. And so he orders a ditch to be made around the altar, and for water to be brought and to be placed in this ditch to fill the ditch, and for the wood to be absolutely just drenched. So he does absolutely the opposite of what these other prophets were doing. Instead of making it easier for God, he creates the most impossible scenario for God to respond. And God is not afraid of our doubts, and he's not afraid of our fears, and he's not afraid when we come up to him and we're like, well, God, in the past, like, I know you're telling me to do this, but in the past it hasn't worked. In the past I've been so alone. And I was sharing even with my group yesterday, and I was just opening up, and I was telling them Um, I've seen the church do so much hurt in the past. Like, I've seen this so much, and I hate it, and I don't want, and I know that God is not going to bring it in the future, but it just hurts. Like, it still does. And God is not afraid of that. Even, I think Jocelyn with the kids was teaching them the fact of the man that came up to Jesus, and he said, help my unbelief. He could have pretended he was just like, yeah, God, Jesus, like, I'm all in. And he could have just hidden his hurt or hidden his unbelief. But instead of that, he said, Jesus, yes, I'm with you, but I have this unbelief and I need help with it. And I feel that Ashley really opened the floor for us to go into that place of saying, okay, is there anything that I need God to help me with while I'm here? That I didn't want to get into what I'm getting into without just allowing us a little bit more time to think of that. Of anything that could be rising in us while we're here, while we're listening. That for me in the past, I've definitely had this hesitation even of just receiving more. Because I'm thinking, like, I don't know what I'm going to do with what I already have. I don't even know how it's going to be received at home. I don't know how people are going to be able to take it. And God's like, it's fine. Like, just have more. Here's just more and more and more and more and more. And that's what I wanted to talk about, which is awesome, that I feel like I'm kind of just repeating and just reaffirming things that have already been said. And it's the fact that I want to talk about how to carry what we receive during this weekend back home. Because there was definitely a bitterness that I had in the past where I felt that that I would leave Chambersburg, or I would leave this family, and then I would encounter a completely different reality. And it would drive me nuts. Because I would feel like it was just this place where I would receive all this, but then I would come over here and it was just like having, Costa Rican money here in the States. Like, it was just, it's not that it's worthless, but I just couldn't do anything with it on this side. And it was frustrating. It was so frustrating. And what I started having this conversation with God, and I was like it feels like a completely different reality. Like, I don't know how to be able to transfer or share or just even to get people to understand what I've been going through, what I've been receiving, everything that I've been hearing, this breakthrough that I've experienced, this just, I don't even know how to say it, like this avalanche of just God just destroying all of my walls. Like, how can I share this with people? And God told me, yes, like, it is a different reality. And it's just a reality that, it's a reality, but it's in our minds. It's in the way that everything that we've been speaking in the weekend is just our perception of things. I was like, okay, all right, that's not helpful. Like, how are we going to change? How are we going to change things? Okay, so this perception feels like a completely different reality. And God's like, yes, it is. It's a completely different reality, but the way for change is really easy. Which drives me even more nuts. It drives me up the wall because I'm like, okay, God, but how? How do we even start? And especially because maybe in the past I made the mistake of trying to change people and try to, I made the mistake as a leader to see people and have an idea of who they should be and try to like corner them into this person that they should be, that destroyed my relationship with them, that destroyed my heart, that caused a lot of hurt. So I was definitely in this place of God, like, teach me, how can I do this right? How can I just, not corner people, not hurt them, not manipulate, but how can I just share this? So where this started for me was in Song of Songs, which I shared with the worship team the other day. Songs of Songs 2:15. And I guess it's the new thing to read the Passion Translation, so I'm going to do that. It says, you must catch the troubling foxes, those sly little foxes that hinder our relationship. For they raid our budding vineyard of love to ruin what I've planted within you. Will you catch them and remove them for me? We will do it together. It's just this very, poetic verse, romantic, and God just turned my perception that I was looking outside and I was seeing people around me, and I was starting to get better. I was starting to get frustrated. I was starting to not know how to deal with this reality or everything that I was seeing. And in the middle of this, I could just hear God saying, like, it's easy, my yoke is light, and he was just speaking life. And I was like, okay, there's something definitely that I'm missing. I think that there's something that I just need to adjust. And God started speaking to me like in the way that you would make shifts on a bike. I started sharing this with my church, and because I lost my car, so I had to, I sold my car, and then I didn't have the opportunity to buy the car that I was going to buy, so I bought a bike. It's a long story. And I started taking my bike to work, and I'm not good at riding a bike, so even though it was like 20 minutes away, it would take me forever. And in the middle of this, I had to learn how to change gears and how to change gears properly so I wouldn't break the bike. And God started speaking to me of how whenever we, if I would make the incorrect change on the bike, then this hill that could have been easy because I didn't know how to shift properly would be absolutely just impossible. And like all of my strength would be burnt out in the first 5 minutes. So basically God started speaking to me. He's like, I just want to show you how to shift your heart. And if you will learn how to shift your heart towards me constantly, not towards people, not to whatever's happening, not to the problems. And this is something that we've spoken of before, I think, of not reacting, to issues, not reacting. And I'm getting somewhere, I promise. Then he's like this whole huge mountain, of reality, this huge thing that this hopelessness that I was seeing around me, this desperation and this perceived lack that people were living in around me. God told me it's just small changes. Like this verse, it's just small, sly little foxes. And it's something that I explained to the worship team, the fact that why it specifically specifically speaks of little foxes is because big foxes will come into a vineyard and they'll eat the fruit. They'll eat the fruit and they'll leave. And then you just have to wait for new fruit to come. And while you're waiting, you're probably trying to fence things up again so that the big foxes don't come. But if little foxes come, they can't reach the fruit. So they'll do something worse, which is that they'll actually chew at the plant so that the plant will fall, and then they can eat the fruit. So God started speaking to me of something that I thought was completely unrelated. And he started showing me how, with everything that's been speaking of family, of carrying this out well, what the world needs is people that will actually step up in integrity. And what does that mean? That just means that if I tell Phil, I'm going to meet you Tuesday and we're going to meet at 2, that I don't text him 5 minutes before and I'm like, I don't think I can make it, or something came up, that I actually follow through in whatever I said that I was going to do. And my time is up. But, so I actually finish. That's integrity, finishing 15 minutes. No. You'll be fine. But those are the things that the world is actually looking for. And it's not this, they're absolutely just sick of everything that has to do of people speaking at them and speaking at them and speaking at them and not standing with them. And this whole mountain of things and this huge thing, God was like, it's simple. Like, just focus on your heart. Close every leak that you might have. Anything that is hindering this like vineyard, this growth of your sonship, of everything that you are, close it off. Make sure that you're walking with me, that we're together. Like with Peter when he started walking on the water, like, look at me. Yeah, but I'm walking on water, like, this is impossible. And he's like, look at me, look at me, look at me, look at me. And it's simple. It's these little things that sometimes we're like, oh, it doesn't matter. And it's, as with what Diane was saying, of just these little compromises that we can make. These little things that we're like, no one's going to know, no one's going to find out. And it's not that God, is having to punish us because we're making these mistakes. No, it's us robbing ourselves little by little by little by little by little, robbing ourselves and robbing the people around us. And if we will take care of our hearts, and if we take care of what God has been doing in us, we have no idea how that's going to impact. And God has just been showing me just this garden that we have no idea how much that's just going to impact. And I loved how Eric was saying yesterday of just like the rivers flowing out of Eden. And just a lot of things have just been making sense to me, and God has just been confirming through the weekend that if we're faithful in the little, it's just going to grow.
Thank you, man. Good word, Dany. Thank you for that.